Welcome back to the Gweilo 60 channel. The American government has just launched a full assault on the Chinese people, the Chinese government, and the Chinese economy. Yes, sirree. I'm not freaking blind, guys. It's Gweilo style. I think it's Thursday. You could die. Yeah. Son of a bitch. Geez, you know. Oh yeah, because it goes on and on and on. For all you haters, there's something to chew on for the next couple of... That's right. They've brought back a bill in the House of Representatives, the Republican led House of Representatives, called the China Initiative. And what this is a bill that was tried to pass in the Trump days, and it targets Chinese people buying property in the United States. They're scrutinized more than any other person from any other country in the world. And it was sort of struck down back in the Trump days just for the fact that it was considered a very racist bill. But this bill actually passed the Republican-led House of Representatives this last week. Yes, so Chinese people are being discriminated against again. Well, they're not new to this. They've been discriminated against in the Western world, in the United States for centuries, with head taxes and exclusion acts. You're not allowed to have a job that is a professional job. You know, they've gone down this road so many times that I guess they're getting used to it, but that doesn't mean there's not going to be some retaliation against the Americans because of this bill. But this last week, which was called China Week in the House of Representatives, they passed between Monday and Wednesday 24 bills trying to curb the economic, political growth, technological growth of China. They brought in certain bills that, for one, to curb espionage, and they're focusing on academic institutions in the United States. So what they're doing is they're targeting Chinese students. Yes, when you go and you pay your tuition, you go to a university in the United States, and you're told that you can't go to this class because you might steal sensitive information and take it home to your own country. I think that's what people go to school for, is to learn and use what they've learned in their future endeavors, their future employment. They're targeting, academic institutions, labs, and universities. So if you're working in a lab and you're Chinese, you're going to be scrutinized more than anybody else out there. It's the same thing with the property purchases. You're going to be scrutinized. If you're a Chinese student, you're going to be scrutinized. Why would the Chinese student or Chinese person want to buy property in the United States or go to the universities? This is going to cost the universities and property developers in the United States billions of dollars. But you see, the government doesn't care about that. What they care about is trying to curb the economic, political, and technological growth of China. That's their mandate. That's what they're there to do this week. And you notice I'm not walking around as much as I usually do. Well, because even in the parks, we have flooding in Nanning. And I'm putting out a video. I think it'll probably go out just before this one. But anyway, that's not what this video is about. And you hear that from me all the time. But it doesn't stop at just targeting Chinese people, property, and students. They brought in tariffs, 100% tariff on EVs coming out of China going into the United States. 100%. They actually bullied Canada into doing exactly the same thing. 100% tariff on electric vehicles coming into the United States. They say that the Chinese government is heavily subsidizing the EV industry in China, and that's why they have to put these tariffs on. And then they take another breath and state that they're heavily subsidizing their EV industry in the United States to grow that industry into something bigger. So they'll they'll punish China for doing exactly what they're doing, and admit that they're doing it as they're punishing China. You know, like 50% tariffs on solar, to 25% tariff on port cranes. And I did a video here, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months ago about spy cranes, and the United States brought in this another bill that they're going to get rid of all of the cranes that are made in China in the United States ports, because they're computerized and they could be shut down at any time, and they could ruin the American economy overnight. Well, now they said, well, they backed off on and that was just a reason to put tariffs on the cranes. You know what I mean? It's a political tool, but they have a 25% tariff on cranes that they sort of backed off on that just recently in China Week. Yes, in China Week, and now that that tariff is off until, I think it's October, November of 2026, or no, May of 2026. So it'll go for a little while longer. But they were going to make these cranes in the United States. How many manufacturers are making port cranes in the United States? 0. So that didn't work out for them, and the port authorities were bitching and complaining about the 25% tariff. See, tariffs, how do I explain this? If you're going to put a tariff on a product that is basically only made in China, and port cranes are only made in China, well then you're gonna, these countries are gonna have to buy these cranes from China. If there's a 25% tariff on it, China says, well, we'll put another 25% cost on top, or how much more it's going to cost to the consumer, and then they pay for it. So it was costing the port authorities 25% more to buy these cranes. So tariffs don't really work. It just makes it more expensive for the consumer in that country. Trumponomics is heavy on tariffs, and he says, I'm going to tariff the living bejesus out of China, and he did in his last administration. Did Biden take those tariffs off? No, they never. From $300 billion worth of tariffs on things like toys out of China, still there. It was put in during the Trump days, and it's still there today after 3.5 years of Bidenomics. So, you know, the idea that the American government is doing whatever they can to try to hurt the Chinese economy. Does it have an impact on the Chinese economy? Definitely it does. It slows things down. It makes it more difficult for the corporations to export their goods to the United States. It costs more. It puts the Chinese products at a higher rate, so that the consumer on the other side might be able to find a cheaper alternative to it. So yes, it has an economic effect on China, but I think it hurts the Americans more than it hurts the Chinese, because they're paying more for everything. It takes away from their economy, and when you're $35 trillion in debt and you've only got 360 million people in a country, well, sooner or later their way of moving forward has got to change. And talk about coming back and biting you in the ass now, because they've pushed the Chinese into the semiconductor manufacturing business by not allowing the sale of semiconductors. So now they've had to put tariffs on Chinese semiconductors going into the United States, a 50% tariff on Chinese semiconductors going into the United States. Now the Chinese are actually competing in the semiconductor industry in the United States because of the sanctions that the Americans put on selling semiconductors from the Western world into China. You got to love the irony. You know, you really have to love the irony of this. They have even gone as low as to double the tariffs on face masks, surgical gloves, syringes, medical supplies. So they're not really looking out for the best interests of the American people. What they're doing is they're trying to they're trying to kill the Chinese economy. They know that that's impossible to do. You see, the Chinese economy surpassed the United States economy back in 2017. You might say, well, but China has less GDP than what the Americans have. But on a purchasing power parity, they surpassed the United States in 2017, and the United States will never catch back up to China because China grows so quickly. Their manufacturing is they are the manufacturing hub of the world, and everybody knows that. They do things on economy of scale, which means instead of making 100,000 EVs, they make 10 million EVs, and the more you make, the cheaper it gets to make each unit. So it's very hard to compete. Our wages are lower, the costs of doing business here are lower, the taxes are lower, the skills that they have in machining and whatever are higher. So it's really hard to compete, and they have the workforce here and they want to work. So when you get into competing with a country like China, and you're used to being the top dog in the United States, well, it sort of hurts their ego a little bit. And I can see that they're lashing back, trying to do whatever they can to try to hurt China economically, hurt the Chinese people, demean the Chinese people by scrutinizing them, not letting them get the education that they paid for in the United States, or not letting them buy properties like everybody else around the world. Well, it just shows the immaturity of the American government and how they're dealing with things, rather than making China their enemy. It is a competitor. China doesn't look at the United States as an enemy. It looks at it as a competitor, like any business would, because countries are businesses. They're trying to do the best for their own people. And the Americans go the low road. The Chinese go the high road. And I think you'll see in the future that the high road, the Chinese way of doing things, is going to make China a better place, a richer country, a safer country, and a country that people respect. Because I know without any doubt that most of the world sees what's going on with the United States and how they deal with their businesses and their government and such, and they're not as respected as they were 10, 15 years ago. They're losing respect as China's gaining respect around the world. And I think that's going to be the defining factor in the future of who comes out on top, how they deal with their finances, how the government deals with their competitors, how they educate their people, how they conduct business around the world. Do they do it in an underhanded way like the United States is doing it, or do they do it in an open forum like China's doing it? And that, my friends, is another video from yours truly, Gweilo 60, in a park in Nanning, a flooded park in Nanning, China, on a Sunday afternoon, and there's people singing everywhere. So I've got to sort of find quieter places to do the videos. I'm pretty sure that none of it will get copyright because, well, it's just not that good. But that's another video from Gweilo 60. I hope you like it. Like, comment, subscribe. Make your comments on this one. Let me know what you're thinking. And until next time, thanks for watching. Peace out. Bye now.